Christmas is right around the corner, and what better way is there to celebrate than listing my top 5 licensed games? Well, there are countless better ways for sure, but I'm just going to roll with it. Unlike Christmas, I haven't had the greatest relation to these types of games, because while some of them were fun, most of them were mediocre cash grabs. I have developed more of an interest and appreciation for them recently, so I wanted to make this video for that reason. Granted, I still don't have the biggest appreciation for them, this is just a top 5 list after all, but I'm getting there. The games on this list have to be from a franchise that didn't start out as a video game, but rather a movie, TV show or other stuff. I can't include Pokemon for example, because while it's famous for being an anime, it was originally a game. With that said, let's dive in! I didn't get into as many shows this year as I did last year, but I'm really glad I didn't miss out on My Hero Academia, as I absolutely loved it. So much so that I bought its game that released this year, that being My Hero Wants Justice, even though it didn't seem like one of the best licensed games out there. I still think it was worth it, despite its shortcomings, like the underwhelming graphics that sometimes dumbed down epic scenes from the show, and the lack of a dub, seeing as it's, hard to read while fighting. Looking past those flaws, however, the gameplay is really fun and the fan service is great. They did justice to the characters, even the NPCs, just look at these fitting Mineta accessories. It's a shame that he and some other fitting characters aren't fighters, and that someone like Chihiro is, but otherwise the roster is pretty neat. I like the DLC fighters too, those being Endeavor, Inasa and Shoot-style Deku, who's far better than regular Deku. Overall, it's a really fun game and a great homage to the series, but its flaws prevents it from being higher on my list. Of course, movies and TV shows are what you'd expect the most when you think about licensed games, but in this case, toys matter too. The LEGO games are really damn fun, especially since most of them retell the stories of classic movies in a humorous way, and in this case, it's Indiana Jones. I'm a big fan of this series of movies, mostly the trilogy, so of course I had to include LEGO Indiana Jones The Original Adventures. It's awesome being able to experience these iconic scenes in video game form, and better yet, in LEGO form, because the characters have such wacky personalities. The gameplay is also great, having a cool incorporation of LEGO mechanics and a wide array of characters that have different utilities. The fact that the game covers 3 movies gives it some length too. I haven't touched the game in a while, which might be because I prefer watching the movies, but I can't deny that playing them in LEGO style was also really enjoyable. To be honest, I barely knew anything about Spider-Man before I dived into Marvel Spider-Man for PS4. Sure, I already knew that his real name is Peter Parker, that his Uncle Ben died, and some other basic info, but I had never read any of the comics, nor watched any of the movies. I only got into it because Insomniac Games was behind it, and its trailers made it seem pretty amazing, not gonna lie. Those trailers weren't lying either, because this game really is spectacular. It actually made me watch the first Raimi movie to get more of the references from the backpacks you collect. If I'm being honest, I didn't find that movie very good at all, as it was really cheesy and bland. I found the second movie great though, but it still doesn't beat this game, that had a fantastic storyline and very likable characters. That might have actually been the best part of it, because while the gameplay was a blast, it did get repetitive quite often. Either way, the fact that this game managed to turn me into somewhat of a Spider-Man fan is saying something. I'm still no expert when it comes to the series, but in my opinion, Insomniac Games did more than justice to the franchise, and to Stan Lee, who shall rest easy knowing he made a great impact on the world, and had a wonderful cameo in this game. Star Wars is one of the most impactful franchises in anything, and it greatly impacted my childhood too, but while I was all over the movies, I didn't really care for the games. To be fair, I haven't played the Star Wars games that are considered the best, like the original Battlefront and Knights of the Old Republic, but instead the Clone Wars, The Force Unleashed and EA's Battlefront, that I'm not too fond of. So just like Indiana Jones, I'm going with a LEGO game, and what's better than a LEGO game that parodies a trilogy of cool movies? A LEGO game that parodies 2 trilogies of even cooler movies. These did start as 2 separate games dividing the trilogies, but the complete saga merged them together, and what a brilliant idea that was. It's so bizarre that I'm able to play as Darth Maul in the original trilogy. Okay, I guess that's not too bizarre nowadays, but it blew my mind back in the day. Just like with Indiana Jones, I love how this game recreates these iconic Star Wars scenes and makes them super goofy. This game has so many playable characters, and sure, a lot of them are similar, but it's still a nice roster. You can even make your own characters that can look pretty rad. The complete saga is not only my favorite LEGO Star Wars game, but also my favorite LEGO game in general. I haven't played that many of them, but I'm pretty sure it would be either way since it's based off of Star Wars and the whole saga at that. The saga that matters anyway. I have a bigger connection to Star Wars than South Park, but South Park's games are just too good, and are the most faithful video game adaptations I've played. I put The Stick of Truth at number 6 in my top 10 2D games list, but it would move up one spot after having finished it. As for The Fractured But Whole, it might be able to hit 4th on that list, surprisingly surpassing Super Mario World. It was number 6 on my top 10 games of 2017 list, but after having finished that, it would easily be number 4, right behind Breath of the Wild. I absolutely love The Fractured But Whole. Sure, the writing wasn't as consistent as it was in Stick of Truth, but it still had a great story, with hilarious comedy. I had already watched a lot of South Park episodes going into this game, but it made me watch the whole show, which is now at 297 episodes. No wonder I didn't get into many other shows this year. So I watched the whole show and loved it, but I must admit that out of anything related to South Park, The Fractured But Whole might just be my favorite, which is saying quite a lot. Along with the writing, the gameplay is also super fun and a lot more varied than in the previous game, which was still really good, but this game gives you more strategic options, like sometimes having to take stage hazards into consideration. Finally, the art style is perfect and looks just as good, if not better than the show itself. It's definitely the best licensed game I played, and I sure hope it gets a sequel eventually. I'd like to see a ninja theme next time, because that Season 8 opener was pretty kick-ass if I do say so myself. This list had 2 games from this year as well as another recent one, so you can tell that I didn't think much of licensed games before now. I probably missed out on many other goodies, but at least I'm trying more of them out, probably because I widened my interests in recent years. I assure you that number 6 and downwards wouldn't be that near my top 5 in terms of enjoyment though, but again, I'm getting there. I'm Arcadon, and hopefully you'll see me next time!